This is the Tabernacle Podcast with John Vermillion and me, Britton Bishop. What's up, John?
Currently 300 mgs, is that milligrams? Yeah.
Yes.
Of
200 wasn't enough from the ghost?
I guess. This is Black Rifle Coffee Company, triple shot, no free shout-outs.
Free shout-outs to Black Rifle.
Oh, okay.
Appreciate the veterans.
Yeah, because they're probably armed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is natural caffeine and focus. Isn't that a natural part of caffeine?
300 milligrams. That is 6 cups of coffee.
Okay, full disclosure. This was half full in my little office fridge, and I just grabbed it. So I'm not getting
I thought
all
you were going to
300.
say that you just found it sitting.
No,
Yeah, man.
no,
Get
no,
behind
no.
that.
I bought it, and like when I started drinking, I was like, 300's a lot. And so about halfway through, I stopped. I said, I'm going to save this for later.
Love it. We are joined today by the one and only Victoria Hughes. What's up,
Yes.
Victoria?
Not much.
Welcome.
Here with you, bozos.
When's the last
Today.
time you had 300 milligrams of caffeine in one sitting?
I don't know. Maybe never.
Maybe
I'm
never.
a grown up.
You're a grown Is it?
I care
is
about
it-
myself.
Is it Victoria, or is your full name actually Victorious?
Why'd you have to do this?
I'm just asking.
No, it's Victoria.
Okay, Victoria. Okay.
Thank you.
Which is short for...
Victorious.
Victoria.
No,
Just
yeah.
call
No,
this
it's an
good.
honor to have you here with us.
Mhm.
Our creative arts director, our fearless worship
I.
leader, the whole thing,
Mhm.
all things creative, and
Resident humbler.
resident humbler,
I'll keep you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Keep you where you
Level.
belong.
because
Yeah.
we're all a little bit afraid of her
Absolutely.
because she talks good.
Mm-hmm. She does talk good. She writes good. And she
Mm.
makes it look like I write good. So I'll take it.
It's true.
I couldn't tell you how many things that have nothing to do with this church that get sent to Victoria. Like, hey, could you,
Yep.
do you think you could edit this for me?
Mhm.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So resident spell checker
Spell checker.
or
But
grammar
she
Proofreader.
adds use. I don't know why she adds use to some of my words.
What?
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh, you mean
Savior
at the-
doesn't have a U in it, but apparently it does.
Oh.
Save you are.
Yeah.
Save your.
Did you? I loved at our, because she sang obviously at Hope and I's wedding, and for the song that we picked, she was like, "Yeah, just send me like the lyrics you want sang," and I made sure to go through and I added
All the
"use" to all the
saviors had a
saviors.
U in it.
So I just want to make sure you could
excellent.
read this.
Yes.
I'm an idiot, so
That's
no.
okay, though.
Victoria, before we start, could you just say merge?
No. Stop it.
Just
You're like, dance, monkey, dance. No.
I've heard multiple people say their favorite Victoria moment, one of their favorites, because it's usually the poignant, but when she corrected our pronunciation of merge.
Mhm.
merge.
Hey, merge, we got a merge coming up. And then
Merge.
it's merge.
Merge.
Merge. Well,
Merge. Merge.
I need to take Victoria back to Oklahoma and just
Oh,
let her
jeez.
experience the fullness
Can you imagine?
of just like everything that you've heard stereotyped about America growing up. It's in Oklahoma. All
I'm
of it.
excited.
It's all in
Absolutely.
one. It's all in one corner. And
go.
his name's Bub.
Victoria and Bub
Oh, that'd be a
on the
podcast.
res.
Could you imagine that podcast?
Take her to
I was
the
going to say,
res.
Just the
we do
two
our
of you
own
doing
podcast.
doing our podcast
Just neither of us
together.
understand
Yeah.
what the other one's saying.
The Brit and the Bumpkin. Sweet. What the heck are we talking about? Oh,
I don't know.
yeah. In our meeting,
It's right there.
that John and I had.
Yeah.
we had a meeting. One.
We had one meeting.
This wasn't in that meeting, folks. So we put this.
You don't
together.
say.
Yeah.
No, we're excited. I think that something that Victoria does really well here at this church, out of all the things that she does really well, I'd say that honestly, is you keep our church in line with what worship is in a vertical aspect. And I think that's something I've come to really appreciate as I've been a pastor at this church, an attender of this church, a member of this church, is I love that no matter what campus you go to, you're experiencing and seeing the same things in the worship sets and the things that we do on and off the stage from our team. So I really appreciate that. And so that kind of led to like this question that I think a lot of people maybe ask. I know in my testimony, I think I've apologized to you for saying it before, but it was like, do I have to go to the sing-along if I go to church? Right? And that was my attitude. And I think that and now I sing louder than anybody else, and it drives her. Me and Phyllis are holding it down in Manistee.
Yeah, you and Phyllis belting it out.
So much.
We love Phyllis.
But I think it just leads to this question that I think a lot of people may ask or have as they attend for the first time. Maybe they've been coming for a really long time, and they're just curious, like, why do we worship? What's the point behind the songs? Why is that a thing? And so I think it just kind of – I put some discussion points that I sent to both of you in an email, but I don't We don't have to follow them if we don't want to. But
That's
I think
fine.
the first one, just to jump off, is just asking the question, what is worship? And
Yeah.
that's open for all discussion.
So are you asking me what is worship or what is the purpose of worship?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hate you
Whichever
right
one
now.
you want to answer.
So I would say probably, what do you want to start with?
What is worship?
Probably what is worship?
Yeah.
So worship is it's a response. It's giving thanks. It's responding to what God has done. It's adoration. It's obedience. It's honoring what He's asked of us. Love God, love people, make disciples. So it's not just singing. So what is worship? I guess the first thing, is it just singing? No, it's not. It's not. It is all of those things. Actually, this might be better to go at the end, but everything we do is an act of worship. Loving the unlovable is an act of worship. So I remember going through marriage counseling before we were married. Matt and I were married. And, you know, sometimes you can look at your spouse or your kids or whatever, or the person sitting in front of you, which would be you today, and it's like, do you deserve my love? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I love you as an act, or my spouse or whoever, as an act of worship to God because He loves you. So it creates this kind of triangulation. So as an act of worship to Him, I love the unlovable.
Why are you pointing at me so much?
Be you right now.
Yeah.
So yes, so we sing in the
humbler.
service as corporate. That's corporate worship, right? That is singing. That is singing. But worship is our all day, everyday interactions with God. So Romans, Paul says, there's all of Romans, and then he says, therefore, so everything leading up to that, he says, you know, everything that you do is an act of worship. Everything you do is love. Everything that you do. So he's saying, therefore, all of this stuff about living a godly life is worship. So, yeah, but it does involve singing.
Yeah.
Yes.
You used a word in there that I think is an intriguing one that we've spent a lot of time with the young adults group over the past 2 weeks talking about is this word obedience. That worship is an act of obedience. And a conversation we had, and maybe this can just be a shorter bunny trail, but this conversation we had, and I think it applies to worship, is how do we, as young adults or as a church or as a person trying to follow Jesus, make the shift in our head that obedience is a burden to be carried, but rather, in the way John talks about in 1 John, he talks about it's a treasure by which to guard. And so like for us, like with obedience and worship, like that's a piece of our worship. So for like you as somebody that leads worship, or you have studied up on all the obedience, like for people when they view worship and they think about that act of obedience within that, like how do we shift the gears or attempt to shift the gears from obligation to opportunity or like burden to like something we find excitement or joy in.
Joy.
Yeah.
Joy is the word.
Yeah.
I think joyful obedience.
Yeah.
So maybe obedience is definitely in there, but it's the response. So Colossians 3 says, and I have notes here because I remember
good.
stuff. Let the message of Christ dwell among you richly as you teach and admonish each other with all wisdom through psalms, hymns, and songs from the Spirit, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts. And that's a what's what I'm looking for? He's saying, do this.
Yeah.
This is
it's an imperative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So he's saying, let all of that dwell within you and come out in this joyful singing with gratitude in our hearts. So yes, we're called to do this. It's an act of obedience. It's an act of worship. It's, in all things be joyful and all of that. So so obedience, I think, we look at it and go, because we don't like being told what to do.
Right.
No one likes to be told what to do. It's like, but it's not about that. It's about joy. It's like giving. Giving is, we talk about this all the time. Giving is an act of worship too. It's saying, I'm so thankful for these things, so I'm going to be obedient to things you've asked me to do, but with joy. I'm going to do it with joy.
Yeah.
And that comes out. Where David, so it goes all the way back, Old Testament. This is not like a new thing. David worshiped, like, when the Ark of the Covenant arrived back in Jerusalem, he's like dancing it crazy, and the instruments, to the point where, homegirl's looking out the window going, you're like an idiot, like a fool. And he's like, but this is, I can't help it. I'm joyful. I'm responding to the goodness and the faithfulness. He's dancing. There's a song, David danced. It's like, it's
Are we doing
not
it this weekend?
No, not this one. It's not this burden of obedience when I worship because I have to. It's worship because I literally can't help myself.
Yeah,
I have to. I can't help myself. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So there's a scripture, Psalm 100. It's about a psalm for giving thanks, and it's a classic. I remember growing up in church, and the worship leader would quote this or read this. We heard it all the time. to the point for me where it was part of the conversation, but I got used to it until I kind of go back with fresh eyes. And it's make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Know that the Lord, he is God. It is he who has made us, and we are his. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him. Bless his name, for the Lord is good. His steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations. There's something about that, and you were talking about Romans, where it says, yes, we offer our bodies as living sacrifices. Every part of me, my personality, who I am, what I have, all of it is, he says, our spiritual act of worship. But with singing, I'm wondering why singing? Because not everyone's as good at singing as Vicky,
Victoria,
Britton, and Phyllis, right? Not everyone's as good at that.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something in singing that is humbling. Now, there are people that can use it as a pride and ego thing, but inherently, when someone starts singing, it's kind of like someone that, if I were to try to draw a picture and I go, look at my picture, and my picture is going to look like this, but it's humbling. I know it sucks.
Right.
That doesn't look like Britton at all. Right. Or what was that 80s movie where the guy is outside the girl's window.
Say
anything with the jam box, and he's playing the Peter Gabriel song In Your Eye, right? And he's humbling himself. Like, what are you doing? And he's out there with the 80s trench coat. I had an 80s trench coat, pushed up on the sleeves, and he's humbling himself at her window. And he can't even bring himself to sing, but he's got Peter Gabriel on a cassette boombox, right? I think that's part of it, is when we come before the Lord, we humble ourselves and we offer our singing. And some of it sounds good, and some people like me need to drown out. But there's this humbling of ourselves before God to sing, or like David did, to dance. And why was he despised by his wife, Michal? Because he'd humbled himself.
Right.
And she's like,
you're a king.
You're a king.
You're not supposed to. And he's like, but I can't help myself. Well, in Psalms, you say, why sing? Psalms is full. You talk about Psalms. So you have Psalm 59, I will sing of your strength. In the morning, I'll sing of your love. Because your love is better than life. My lips will glorify you. I'll praise you as long as I live. And in your name, I'll lift my hands. We'll talk about lifting hands in a minute. But I cried out to him with my mouth. His praise was on my tongue. Sing to God. Sing and praise. It's just sing, sing, sing. And Psalms are songs. They're just songs. So you're right. There's something specific. It doesn't say, I will dance in the morning, although David does, or I will play my guitar. It's not. It's pretty specific about singing. So singing is obviously that, for 1,000 tongues to sing, my great Redeemer. It's like, it's singing.
Yeah.
So we know this is important. This obviously is important.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think about, too, like just the experience from like at the conference that we went to with the pastors. And it's like a bunch of reformed dudes in a room. Like, ain't nobody in there known for their vocals. But there's something.
Or the drums.
But there's something about when there's thousands of voices in unison.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is bigger than me. There's
That's
more.
good.
There's more happening in this room than me. One of my favorite quotes, I forget who it was, but he talks about he left a service one time and they were walking out the door. And he was a pastor of this church and they're leaving, and he has a family walking behind him, and he overhears the guy say, I really didn't like worship today. And he tells the story and he goes, and I couldn't stop myself from saying, without turning around, just walking out the door, I opened the door and I said, good thing we weren't worshiping you, bud.
Right?
Yeah.
I got to remember that one. That's
and
outstanding.
I think I have like 3 thoughts right now, but I think when we talk about why singing, so this is seeing, I'm always worried about saying something heretical or something that doesn't make any sense. Here's my thought. So I think people say, why do we even need to do this? Can't we just come in, hear a message? So we have to have solid biblical teaching, because when we have solid biblical teaching, we learn the facts about God. We learn the facts. We learn this is God's word, right? But when we worship, and this is where I'll be really careful, is we experience God. We have an experience. And it doesn't mean that you can't be moved to tears and have an experience during teaching. Of course you can. But Do you guys know what the Stendhal? Do you know what the Stendhal effect is?
Yes.
So do you know what Stendhal?
You've shared this, but,
yeah. So
but share it
the
again.
Stendhal effect. Stendhal was I don't know the biography, whatever, was a scientist or psychologist or whatever. The Stendhal effect is that thing that happens to you when you see a piece of art, you hear a piece of music, something visual or whatever that moves you to have the chills, a funny feeling in your tummy, the hair on the back of your neck, where you something happens to you. You have an experience or a sunset or something. And God created us. He created us to have that. That's not manufactured. You can't help it when you just, again, you see a sunset or a sunrise and you're like moved to tears. You can't help it. And music does that.
Yeah. Culinary arts as well, yeah.
Culinary
you have
arts.
that piece of chicken that's
it's
just
an
like,
art.
oh my gosh.
Right, I didn't put the word there.
So when you have that solid biblical teaching and the arts together, you're creating a space for people to learn the facts about God, but also experience and respond to God through the worship. So I think it's real. We respond in singing. We feel that when you hear that song, that just maybe it's a memory it brings you back to, or whatever. But you actually have a physiological experience. You experience God. So I don't want to say that you can't.
No,
it's not.
No, that's right.
Exclusive.
No, that's there was or they used to speak about this way before I ever heard of Stendhal and you sharing that, is they said that, teaching will speak to the mind and the heart, but music has the ability to go straight to the heart.
Right.
It isn't that music doesn't speak to your mind. I mean, the vertical worship that that you and the others that lead us here, it's always theologically accurate. And I know that's a painstaking process because there's a lot of stuff that we sing that it's like, but that's not true.
Right.
Not that we sing, but that might be on Christian radio or, in the worship arts, whatever. But music has that ability to go straight to my soul. And so there's a melody in a sermon about God, but music can capture it better and drive it home right into your heart is kind of how I would put that in my own words.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And that kind of tees up kind of that next, so for us, you used the word we were going to talk about. So here at the Tabernacle, we, your team, emphasize this idea of vertical worship. It's a non-negotiable. I've heard you communicating that in the meetings pre-service. Man, I love when people send me songs, but we got to make sure it's always and so for us as a church, for John, you as the lead pastor, in those conversations, I know you guys talk about this stuff a lot. Why is it so important that we as a church and we as Christians really emphasize this idea of vertical worship?
Yeah.
So I think breaking that down would be good for people because it gives us a clear picture of the purpose behind worship, I think.
Or even what's non-vertical worship.
Right.
Yeah. So we talk about vertical worship, but we also talk about excellence. So talking about your little stick figure guy. So we pursue excellence. So I have an amazing mentor, Joe Hornis, who has his own, I know we don't do any shout outs, but he has Engaging the Heart Ministries. He has a worship initiative. You can go find it on Facebook. But
nice.
And all over the place.
Free shout outs for all
incredible.
of those.
I've heard he's a legend.
He's amazing, absolutely incredible. And mentor, friend for the last 17 years of my life. And that's where I really learned when we talk about excellence in worship, people will be like, oh, so you're talking about performance. It has to be excellent. No, we don't do excellence for the sake of excellence. We pursue excellence because, as Joe would say, distraction is the enemy of worship, right? So if you're distracted during worship because people are singing off key or the chords are wrong or the words aren't up on the screen so you can sing, that's a distraction. And again, we're trying to create that space where people can experience God, straight to the heart. And so excellence, again, because God deserves nothing less than our best offering. Now, my best offering is there's a continuum, right, of what excellent looks like for me on any given day, right? Sometimes I will say it's a mud pie. Sometimes it's a 5-course meal. Sometimes we tell your kids bring you the macaroni necklace, and you're like, this is literally the greatest thing I've ever seen. And as a mother, you wear it all the time, everywhere you go with the glitter glue and whatnot. But it could be a Tiffany bracelet. So it's excellent is the best I have on this day to give to him. Some days I can barely get out of bed, but I'm like, Lord, I really need you right now. I'm depressed. I can't get out of bed. That's the best I have today. Another day I'm just boom, 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 crushing it by the world standards, whatever. Anyway, so excellence for the sake of excellence is performance. And we're not about performance. We're looking for authenticity. So I'm leading up to it, backtracking here. So if you're doing excellence for this, if you're pursuing excellence for the sake of excellence, you're looking for that wow factor, right? You're looking for that wow factor. How often, I'm not naming churches, I'm not throwing anyone on the bus or anything, but you'll see, come back next week, the worship's going to be off the hook, which, is the heart behind it. Or, hey, we're closing out the series, we've saved the best for last. It's like that, the wow factor. And it is impossible for any church on any given Sunday to be better than the Sunday before, always. We're always going to be better than the one before, but we're just going to keep ramping it up. Because when you go after that wow factor, you're creating a pressure to put on a show birthed out of our talents, our own strengths, our own resources every single week until Jesus comes back, right? So I'm just going to continue to, out of my own strength, create something better than last week. Wow the people, bring them in. And especially in music, we're susceptible to that, right? Because people go to concerts. They want to see the flash pots and the lights and the huge screens. It's like we can't get caught up in that because you can't maintain that. You can't. But so the wow is focused on excellence, but it creates rock stars, right? And people then can't find that on their own. So they come and they watch the show and they're like, wow. But when I go home, I can't create that for myself. That's not something I can access. Those guys are, wow, that's incredible. But when we go after the aha, we want people to have the aha, not the wow. That is excellent and relatable. So now so if I sing, this is the vertical part, if I sing I this, I that, that's personal. Now people are watching me and I'm having a moment with the Lord. And they're like, well, I'm kind of maybe feel a little bit like they're sitting in on something very personal, but it comes about me. I feel this, I feel that. But when I sing you, now I'm focusing on him, and we are all on that journey. We're all on that journey. It's why we're here. So now we're all together, exalting his name, responding, singing. And so that's why I look for songs. We very prayerfully, carefully, I'll bring songs to John and be like, hey, this is just, I've got a song right now that I really need to talk to you about because it keeps coming back around. But every time I see it, I go, gosh, something in there is rubbing me the wrong way. So I just remind me I need to talk to you about a song. But because it keeps coming up.
Yeah,
it keeps coming up. But it's like half the song and then, you had it.
Yeah.
And then you blew it. I. And there are times to go, I need you, Lord. I'm crying out to you. But we're still responding.
Yeah.
Or that song we sing, I'm going to sing my way out the valley. I'm going to praise my way up the mountain. I'm still going vertical. I'm going to seek you. I'm going to, as opposed to, please be the genie in the lamp, right?
Right.
So, we sing, you give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. There's no one in this room, Benji included, who don't feel that.
Right.
I'm the heart that's broken. So you do this. So that's really the vertical thing is if I'm singing I, it's just so intensely personal that I just feel like people leave and go, wow, I just watched Victoria have a conversation with God. Cool. Instead of we sing you, it's like, wow, we were just together in a moment of responding and adoration and exalting and worshiping and obedience, I guess. We'll pull it back in. So that's why the vertical thing is so intensely important to me, to us. And I think it works. I think people respond.
Yeah, and I think as well, because I love that we're a vertical church, but I think as well, whenever you get caught in the horizontal, it can be very easy to slip into this moment of this is about me.
Yeah,
God, you're gonna do this, or because of it. And there's so many songs that come back to the fact of I need you to do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And for the people that are in that room, right, that are walking through the crap, and we're singing these songs that are about God's gonna. It's like, but there's somebody in here you might not be doing that for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that the more we can pull the me out of it and fix it back to, it's just like what Hebrews talks about, raising your gaze, fixing your eyes on Jesus.
Yep.
And I love that we as a church, like that's the biggest attempt that we make is that, man, if you're going to leave here, at least you'll know you worship Jesus today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that aspect of it. And I think as well with the vertical worship, it restores something that I think at times is lost in the Western church, and it's this reverence for who God is.
Yeah,
and I think often we can miss that. And I think that the vertical worship, I'm not saying we as the tabernacle, but I'm saying just as a Big C church in the attempt for the next wow factor, we can lose sight because we start trying to make God better than what he already is. Like we can make this better. It's like, no, he's God. Like let's just live in the reverence of that.
Yeah.
And that should be enough week in and week out. And so I think that's
what I mean.
Piece.
It's like you can't, we can keep trying each week to better than the week before, better than the week before. And we do sit down and look at our services and go, did we do these things? It's not to be better and ramp it up. It's more just, did we remove distractions? Were we vertical? So yes, we do. Don't even think we don't sit and go, are we still making sure we're talking to everyone that's out there, the students, the married, the singles, the divorced, the addicts, all of it. But it's not so we can wow them more, so we can knock their socks off. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the heart behind it, I think, is 100%. The key. Because I love the fact that when you come in on a Saturday or whatever it is, like, no, we're going to get after it. We're going to talk about, like, hey, that part of that song, like, let's clean that up. Let's tighten that up. I've heard you use those words. Whenever we craft sermons and write sermons, we don't on Saturday night say, what's one thing to make that better so that John or Tim or Britton look better.
Look cooler. Yeah.
No, it's because we want
edgier
to,
or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is.
No.
But it's a heart posture that we want with the gifts that have been given to us. We want to do the most we can in the effort to honor God with what he's trusted us. I love the pastor that both of us have kind of started listening to where he asks the questions, would you have me do less with what I've been gifted? Right. And so I think that's a key piece. That's
so important when people confront churches or worship or whatever on the excellence. Yeah. Oh, it's just excellence for excellence sake, which is performance. It's like, no. Yeah. I'm going to go to the nth degree, to with the gift he's given me to give the absolute best I can on any given day with the most open heart and authenticity that I can. That's it. That's what I'm pursuing.
So I was, this reminds me of this past Saturday night, Saturday afternoon. The house was full. My home was full. I was already ready for church. They weren't going to Saturday night. They were going to Sunday morning. Benjamin and I are at the door. We're about to go out, and my wife asked me, you headed out or something, just making conversation. And I said out loud, yep. I said, this might be the best sermon I've ever preached. And her response was, oh, no. And because she knows me and she's heard me talk about this before, she checked me, and it wasn't what she thought I was saying.
Right.
My mind was somewhere completely different. But when I said this might be the best sermon I've ever preached, her response had to do with, John, I know when you're super prepared and you're super fired up, usually those are the ones that fall flat. It's the ones where you don't feel prepared that people are like, whoa, God really used that, or da-da-da-da-da. What I really had in my heart is this idea, in back to what you were saying about performance. I think we miss the fact, both in teaching and especially with worship music, that there's another player in the room. It's not just the worship leader and the congregation. It's not just during the teaching. It's not just Britton and the congregation. And it's God. Like, God is a participant. And I have found myself more often than not surprised in worship. So back to your point of, can the worship get better and better and better week in and week out? That depends on God. It's the same thing with the teaching. So when I was saying this might be the best sermon I've ever preached, it had nothing to do with me. Right. It meant the divine just might show up in a way. Like what I was alluding to is, wow, God, I get to do this with you. That you're in the preparation. It is in your word. It's That's all good. The Holy Spirit and all these people, and the 2 or 3 or more gathered. And then I'm thinking about a time when I wasn't dialed in to worship at all. Like, there were too many distractions that day, not anything that you or your team had done. It was just the church. There was
It was me and Adam.
It was probably the stepbrothers, right?
Just say it.
But, and I couldn't be in there in the beginning. Someone had posted me up in the lobby with their big complaint, like right before. And I'd come in, and you were finishing one song, and you said a few words, didn't hear a thing you said. And then Vicky was at the keyboards, and I don't even remember. Like, I remember the moment. I remember the Stendhal effect. I don't even remember the song, but it was a hymn. And you went into it, and I didn't know it was on the set list. And I was an immediate wreck. Like, it's like God got my attention. All the distraction, the complainer, the stuff that was not working that week. And, I got to preach right after this song. And
Isn't that the worst?
it's the worst.
That's when I have the
But the
decision.
best. I was surprised
right.
by worship. And yeah, I mean, I've heard Vicky sing 1,000 times. But it was in that, I don't know if it was because I was connected to my spiritual past. I don't know if it was the lyrics of that song. In that moment, it was like God said, hey, I want your attention.
Right.
And I was just taken to this place. I mean, I can still feel it.
Yeah,
you know.
That's cool. That's the moment where you're like, all right, I'm either going to cry in front of this congregation or yell at them. And I usually just tend to yell at them.
Oh, dude.
So when I come out hot, it's probably because God's doing something else in me, and so I got to outsource it somewhere else.
Outsource.
But I mean,
That's funny.
have you experienced that where you put a set list together and you're like, well, okay, it's adequate. And we're going to do our best, but I really want to do that song, but I have the musician. And then all of a sudden there was some kind of response where people are like, oh my goodness. And you're like, really?
Yeah.
I mean, we experience that as preachers all the time. Yeah.
All the time. I spend time, I spend time with God. Especially lately, I go through those. We all do. Just because we work at church doesn't mean we're any better, where my prayer life is healthier than other times. So spend time with him. But when I'm standing there about to lead worship and I have a conversation with him saying, I really, really need you to help me get out the way, stay out the way. I just need you to use me to do something here because I know these people in front of me, but I don't know every story. Mm-hmm. But you do. And I've tried to prayerfully pick the songs. Sometimes, I feel like I've kind of manufactured it a little bit because of who I have that week. Like last weekend was just Matt and I. So it was just guitar, piano, and 2 voices. So there are some songs just aren't going to fit. You know, the big rocking songs don't necessarily fit. We're kind of more into the more mid-tempo, slower songs. So sometimes it's like, but I try to be like, I really, who's coming in. If it's for one person, this one song for this one person, please bring that song to mind. And so I put together worship runs. But there are times I'm standing there going, I'm just a person. So sometimes I'm just not feeling it at all. And he still does something. I remember one time, many, many years ago, not at this church, but a church doesn't exist anymore, that I worked at and led worship at. And Matt and I had gone downstate to visit someone and to visit a friend. And we were just like, let's just stay up all night because we came back late. And we were like thinking we were so funny because we were like in our late 30s, I think. And we were
pulling an all-nighter.
And then it was just the 2 of us.
That's when you need 300 megs.
Right, something. On worship team. Just the 2 of us. And we did this thing with the pastor where the 3 of us stayed on stage the whole time. So, and I wasn't playing piano, so it was just guitar, 2 voices, and the pastor. So he would teach a little bit, and then we would do a song. He'd teach a little bit and do a song, and we just intertwined. It was really cool. But I had 0 voice. I thought I could pull it off, couldn't. I hadn't. In the sound guy during rehearsal, he's like, can you give me a little bit more? And I was like, nope, this is all I've got. And I'm like, So, and then the songs were just in a key that, it was just awful. It was, I'm just telling you right now, it was really, really bad. So I'm super distracted, like almost in tears because I'm like, this is the worst thing I've ever done. We get done, and this person comes up to me and goes, oh my gosh, and actually said the words, that might be the clearest I've ever heard you sing. And I'm literally looking at them like, they're on crack because this is insane. Like, where were you today? You weren't in this room. And then I realized that it came out my mouth, and I could almost see God go, oh my gosh, quick, give me that. Spit shine it, and then send it out, like completely intervene. Because it was for them, and what they needed to hear was not necessarily what was coming out my mouth at all, but he was able to intercede and do something else. Because I literally was looking at them like doggy stare, like, you got to be kidding me. That's literally one of the worst things I've ever done. So, and then here, just a little while ago, and I think I'm losing the thread of the question here, but
I forgot what the question was.
I know,
so
sorry.
It's okay.
But
you talk good.
Not that long ago, I think it was another time when it was just Matt and I, and we started doing the song, and the voice in my head telling me I had no business doing what I was doing, that I really, really stink at what I'm trying to do, and they don't know where you've been, but I do. And it was so negative. I could literally almost couldn't hear myself singing. And I was beginning to panic, and my heart was pounding, and I was making mistakes. I was playing, it was so bad. I could feel Matt looking at me like, what are you doing? I was playing wrong chords, and it was showing. I was going, I guess we have video. I was just like, and people could see something was very, very wrong. And we'll often just flow the songs, one song into the next. And I stopped after that song and just sat back. And you always say it's like a can't afford therapy and you're all sitting here. So here we go. And I was like, you guys, I just cannot do this today. I feel like I shouldn't be sitting here. The voices in my head are telling me I shouldn't be here, that I have no right trying to be all worship leader. He's the big old stinking sinner. It was just like, it was so bad. And I think a little voice in the back was like, we love you, Victoria. And I was like, and I love you too. But right now, that's not what this is about. Right. And I prayed. We just stopped and I was like, you guys, I really need to pray right now. And then took a deep breath. And then off we went, and we just kept worshiping. And it was that moment of God saying, I got you. Stop for a minute, bring it back to me, tell the other voice to go take a hike, and I got you. Now let's worship together. And the congregation, it was crazy. It was crazy worship because we were all suddenly in that boat together.
Well, I love too, because I wonder how many people in the seats every weekend, that's
feel
where
the
they're
same
at.
way.
Feel that way.
Yep.
I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be saying, yeah.
Fun fact, the preacher feels that way all the time.
Right.
Yeah, and so I guess that's a good bunny trail to chase. Like, how would you encourage, admonish, whatever words you want to use, the person that says, "Man, I wish I could worship, but you have no idea what I'm going through right now, or who I am, or am I even worthy of worshiping this God?"
Right.
And so I think like for you guys, like, what would you say to that person to encourage them that this is why we worship, right? In those moments where that's the voice, but whatever that is, let's break that down. Let's chase that bunny.
Yeah. So no, you're not worthy. That's right. That's it. Right. No, we're not worthy to, actually that's how I was trying to make this distinction. Somebody told me this once. It's like you don't deserve anything, but you are worthy because he has deemed you worthy. So are you worthy? Yes. Do you deserve it? Do you have the right to? Are you important enough to him? But, even with all of your bad stuff, you are still, in fact, so I went to a NA meeting a few weeks back and was sitting there as awesome as women's meetings. Some are seriously the coolest women this is really cool. And, there's at times, or like, I used to go Weight Watchers and it's like, and you're like, oh, I just really, really messed up this week. I really don't want to go to meeting, or I relapse. I really don't want to go to meeting. Those are the times when you should go to the meeting because you need, firstly, may not be as bad as you thought. The amount of time I've got on the Weight Watchers scale and gone, oh, I didn't do as much damage as I thought. I got a reprieve, Or, if you relapse, go to a meeting that day. Go, because you need the community. And the recovery community is so powerful and so amazing because we have all been there. So it's like, so if you're standing there going, I just can't worship because I don't, do you know what I did this past week? I did these terrible things this morning. Whatever. That's when you should be worshiping, right? The humbling, to come before him and be like, I'm going to sing your praises because I sure can't sing about myself. I have no praise to give myself. I'm so rock bottom.
So good.
I'm going to praise you because I need it more than ever today. And even if I'm standing there and I'm not singing, which is another one of the things we talk about, do you have to sing or not? It's like I'm still standing before him going, I'm such a mess. I screwed up so badly. I'm going to worship, right? I'll praise you in the storm as well. Blessed be your name. Blessed be your name. You give it, take away. It's like I will praise your name in the storm. I praise you in the good and the bad, but especially in the bad.
Yeah, I remember. For me, like even in my own testimony, like there was that, and people have heard the story 100 times, but it fits here, so I'm gonna tell it again. Was when we were in Houston after that.
I don't want to
after
hear this
the hurricane.
Again. You can tell it again. I don't.
Sorry,
Karen.
But I'm over there like doing what I think I need to be doing. Like we're passing out supplies, doing all this stuff, and then there's like a worship night going on like 100 yards away, and I'll never forget the impact that had in my life. Just observing and hearing these people whose houses are underwater, their life is in shambles. What they have is what is on their body, and they're singing to God. And it was just like there are so many moments in my own life where God uses that core memory to my discipleship. When I'm pulling up to the church at 7 o'clock in the morning, and everyone that knows me knows at 7 o'clock in the morning, I don't want to be anywhere. It doesn't matter. And there's just those little moments where it's like, but remember who I am and remember who you are. Let's get the order right.
Exactly.
And there's those little moments like that. So I think for the person, like that moment where, man, today I'm just not feeling it. But if you would, for the lack of a better term, press into that. And I know everybody hates that. You guys can shake your head. It's fine. See you later. I'll do the rest of this podcast by myself. I'm answering for you, though. Victoria told me. No, but I think that if you'll take that moment, step outside of yourself, and fix your eyes back on Jesus, what a moment. Those are those mountaintop moments that you talk about that you can navigate by, because it sets you back rightly in remembering, man, I'm not what I've done. I'm not my mistakes. I'm not my sin, because this is who he is. And he tells me that because of who he is, this is who I am.
This is who you are.
And it sets me back rightly before God. So for that, I think for the person that's like, man, today I'm just not feeling it. What better time than when you're not feeling it? Because when you are feeling it, who are you actually worshiping?
Sure. It's easy.
Can I jump in on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as soon as you ask the question, and I think the original question is, what do you do when you're not feeling it? I don't know if it's because Vicky's on the podcast, but I'm feeling all artsy. Lyrics to a song came to my mind. And I never even heard this song until my children came back from Camp 22 last summer. And they were talking about, what was the name of that song? And they couldn't find the name of the song. And whoever was the worship leader, he finally sang the song. And then, of course, I want to know what they're singing. And it's from this guy, Brandon Lake. And the whole song is about what you're talking about. It says, all my words fall short. I've got nothing new. How could I express all my gratitude? I could sing these songs as I often do, but every song must end and you never do. But when it comes to I'm not feeling it, what are your options? To not worship the God that's worthy of all worship? You know, when you're not feeling it, what are we going to not do? Not give him what he's worth, you know? And so then it says, so I throw up my hands, praise you again and again, because all I have is a hallelujah, a hallelujah. And I know it's not much, and I love this line, but I've nothing else fit for a king. You give him what you got.
Right.
Even if you're like, oh, I'm not even feeling these songs, because back to what you were saying, there's something about music that lifts. You can have the worst day and it lifts. That's why we sing at a funeral. And it'll either wreck you or encourage you, but is it pressing in, it's powering through, whatever it is. But lifting up our songs in praise, we're showing our gratitude to God again. And even when I was thinking about that, you know, why did the students? Because it wasn't just my own kids. I heard from other kids, you know, because I'm the carpool guy. And then oh man, remember at camp? Oh, I love that song. What's it? I found the name of the song. And then they're all on Spotify and they're doing this. Why are students all attached to that song? Well, you know better than, well, you're the
Probably
student ministry expert. How many students and humans, but our students are locked in a cycle of shame.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. I don't have enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good looking enough. I have too much sin in my life. I think that's one of the reasons that song connected with them.
Yeah.
And it's a song that it just is back to the point, is this is all I've got, and so I'm just offering it up no matter what.
Yeah.
And
I think, you know, I say this, I've said this several times from the stage. I think the same song can be a declaration, or you can sing it as a declaration, you can sing it as desperation. So one of my absolute all-time favorite songs, we just did it the other week, man, I did it, is you know, and if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what could stay? And it's like, and I can sing that like, yeah, like I want to go pick a fight, yeah,
yeah.
And there's other times I'm literally like holding on by my fingertips.
You're holding on
going,
to it.
Like with a question mark, and if our God is for us, it's like,
exactly.
Because I'm just so desperate,
Well
and I'm
said.
praying it like, please, if you're with us. So same song, you know, so I can be standing there and just like, I cannot do this today. I'm so broken, but I'm going to sing, you know, the goodness of God, you know, all my life you've been faithful, and I'm just bawling because I'm just like, okay, it is true. And other times I'm like, oh, my life you've been faithful, and your goodness is running after
I don't know
me.
if I've ever seen you have that
right?
emotion.
And other times I'm just like, right? But you know what I mean? It's like you sing from that place of joy, and other times we sing, like I said, you sing the joyful obedience, but then you also the response. And the response is, I'm so broken. I'm literally on my knees just singing. I'm so broken by your love, and knowing that I still have the love even though I'm a massive screw up. It's like, so yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Jeez, man, we can't even talk about. Every time we talk about that song, it brings up a memory that all of us share, I think, surrounded by that Goodness of God song and just the testimony that is. And I've seen it in the broken, in the pit, and watched just what fixing your eyes on Jesus can do.
Yeah.
You okay, bud?
This is stupid. Oh, man.
Britton's getting the feels right there.
It's that song. I can't listen to it anymore.
Yeah.
It smokes me. It's dumb.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, geez. All right, so Victoria, why don't you play More Citizens or King? No, I'm just kidding. We don't have to do it. I know 5 questions.
Right,
I am curious, though, because I know you, and someday you'll do your Change Life story, but maybe just for this time. Why does Victoria Hughes lead worship? What led to that? Because you've got pipes. Clearly, everybody knows it. You were the only person hoping I wanted to sing at our wedding. I almost said funeral. But it's just,
well, she is singing at my funeral.
No, 100%. She's singing at mine, but it's only going to be country music.
You'll be singing at hers.
Yeah. That's where I'm going to get you.
That's it.
That's where I'm going to get you.
Let's do it right now. Let's just make that decision.
Yeah.
Cool.
Listen, guys, this is what Victoria would want. But in your life, in your story, like what led you to? You don't have to go into the fullness of yourself, of like giving your life to Christ, but like when was there a moment like, man, I have this gift, like why not use it?
Yeah.
So like,
didn't quite work that way, but so in 2000, I joined a band here in Travis. I'd lived here for 3 years, and I was we used to do every Friday night at the Holiday Inn. They used to have music out on the deck. It was a big 9-piece band, a 5-piece horn section, and we did a lot of kind of jump jive, all that kind of stuff, and soul, classic soul stuff. And one of the trumpet players in the band was kind of in a kind of a church plant. They'd only been around for a couple of years, and so he would talk about a church thing. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm like, I'm really not. Organized religion was something I kind of always knew there was something, but didn't know if it was sort of, in my teens, it was all like dark and mysterious, and so I really didn't believe in the God thing so much. But so we're playing down there one Friday night, and like I said, I knew the trumpet player was really super involved in this new church, and he had some of his church friends, people were there. And this is a guy standing there with a beer and stuff, and this trumpet player, he goes, "That's our pastor," and I'm like, "Bro's got a beer in his hand." I'm like, that's kind of cool, I was not in recovery yet, but so I was like, "Cool, it's a bro." But anyway, we get to talking, and he's like, "You should come sing at our church." And I'm like, "Well, sure, if you want like lightning to strike and the whole thing to cave in,
classic.
Sure, right?
Yeah.
Like, you trust me, you don't want me at your church." So that began 4-5 years of conversation. Just talking. He and I would just talk. He'd give me a book, and I'd read a little bit, and I'm like, yeah, but he'd say I'm his but girl, because I'd be like, yeah, but what about that?
Is this the pastor or the friend in the
pastor,
band? Okay.
Pastor. And so we talked for years, and I still had never actually set foot in the church. Like, bro was playing the long game. So I just kept asking questions, and still just singing. I've been in bands since I was 15. So at that point, I've been in bands for 15 years or so. And my dad sang. We sang since we were very, very small children. He taught us how to sing and sing in harmony. So I'd sang my whole life, and started being a student of singing at like 11, 12 years old, because my voice always sounded like this, even when I was a little kid. I had this deep voice. Lucy, right? My daughter, she has that little kind of low husky voice as well. So I've always sounded this way. So I was singing classical music at 12 years old. Went to music college, have a degree in music. So always sung, performing. Always performed in bands, done huge gigs with famous people, tiny little bar gigs, done really cool studio work. That was it. So it was my living. So finally, after like 4 years or whatever, I set foot in the church. Didn't burn down. It was actually in a school at the time. All was good. Everybody remained safe. And so kind of went a couple of times and was like, okay, this music is actually kind of legit. I'm not sure I believe the words, but okay, these people are really stinking good, because that church at the time had some of the best musicians, well, Joe is where I met Joe, my mentor. Serious quality. I was like, okay, so this isn't just like tambourines and, whatever, jangly guitars and pianos. So I'm like, okay, so that the conversation continued, but now I was kind of going every now and again and getting to know a few people. And so April of 2005, I lost my job. My job was absolutely my identity. Absolutely. I worked with youth, at-risk youth in town. I could walk into any school. I knew the kids everywhere I belonged. This was my jam. It was totally my identity. I lost my job. and my whole world just got very quiet. And that's God's like, are you ready to hear what I have to say now? Your world's gone a little bit quiet and you literally don't know who you are. How about I just tell you who you are? So things started really speeding up. And this pastor said, we want you to come sing at the church. And there was a song I did with a band. It's an old song called I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free. It's an old kind of gospel-y, kind of a jazz standard, but it's got a really cool gospel vibe to it. He said, but we've never had a seeker on the stage before. We will preface it and make sure the congregation know you are a seeker because, that's serious. When you're standing singing on a stage and you're singing God's word, it's the same as you teaching often, because our songs are vertical, they're often right out of scripture.
Yeah.
So they're always based in scripture. So it's like, we have to let them know that you're not a believer yet. Cool. So, all right, blah, 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 and we're getting ready to sing a song. The song's massive. It builds from nothing to just this huge, big, crazy ending. It's really cool. I'm not sure I could sing it anymore because that was a long time ago and I don't have the lung for it anymore. But I'm singing this song and I'm not used to singing to people who don't have a drink in their hand or just talking over the top of whatever, because I've sung in bands. And I feel something happening. I feel them lean towards me.
Would you say
I
they
feel
were
them
leaning in?
shift. Don't even start with me right now.
Don't even start.
I'm seriously, I'm out.
No.
I would drop this stuff and leave. So I feel them go with me.
Mm-hmm.
And as the song, I specifically remember my mentor, Joe, his daughter was sitting right in front of me. She was maybe 13, 14 at the time. Her face was just like, for me. She was just like looking at me like this is so cool. Not because of how I was singing. I knew it was something different. So I'm singing and I felt completely united with the people in that room. And I'm singing, I wish I knew how to be free. I wish I could break all these chains holding me. I wish I could fly like a bird in the sky. That's how the song goes. Then I would know what it would mean to be free. So obviously, there's a lot of, gospel-y stuff in there. I come off the stage and literally fell into someone's arms. And I was like, I think I just kind of overdid it. And he was a guest worship leader, incredible singer. And he goes, yeah. And I was like, no, really, I think I just kind of a little adrenaline rush. He's like, yep. So that was pretty much the biggest catalyst to me finally accepting Christ, probably within weeks. So singing in bands my whole life, and I'm blabbing on here a little bit, but singing in bands my whole life as performance. And I still do. I sing in a band. Matt and I have a band. We sing in a band. And singing, surrendering what I'm about to do. Because when we sing in the band, we're performing. We've got some snazzy little dance routines and stuff. It's like we're performing, when people clap, we're like, thank you very much, But standing, using the same gift, the gift he's given me that I'm able to earn, for my family and pour into the church.
The
And
side
my family.
hustle.
Yeah, side hustle, yeah. But when you're standing, preparing to sing in worship and using that same gift and saying to him, all right, I'm right here. Use what you've given me. I'm here and I'm ready. And I open up that channel, like literally at the top of my head, I feel the direct main line. It's like, use it. And then you feel, again, that experience of feeling the congregation come towards you and you say, all right, that's the guy. I'm just like the towel over my hand.
Right.
I'm opening the door like at the old movie theater when they used to open the door for you. It's like, I'm just opening the door. You go ahead. He's right there. That's why I have the gift that I have. And I had to humble myself and say, I don't have it all together. I'm accepting Christ my Savior. I'm not that big of a deal. I can't have control anymore. I'm screwing up my whole life. And I had just got sober a couple of years before that. So now I truly understood what giving it over to higher power was. So all of those things kind of happen within a couple of years. So I think I've lost the thread of your question again. Why do I do it? Because it's the gift he gave me to do it. Because, backtrack. That first time when I sang that song as a seeker, it was at a school. So I'd come out of the auditorium, was just standing outside, and this guy came up to me. I've never seen him since, but I would remember his face if I saw him today. And this is 17 years ago, more than 17 years ago. And he said, I really enjoyed your singing today. And I was like, thank you, because it wasn't worship. And I was like, thank you, man. Thanks. I appreciate you giving my gifts a little shout out. And he goes, I was going to kill myself today, but I think maybe I'm going to hang on a little bit and just kind of see what else is there. And I'm like, like all the air sucked out of my lungs. And it was like, okay. Just kind of walking away like, okay. And I'm thinking, and I look back now and said, I probably should have told somebody and have somebody maybe go talk to him, and maybe he went to somebody else. But I literally didn't know what to do. The responsibility, and I say this to the team all the time, every single person on that stage is a worship leader. The responsibility, like people say, do you get nervous? Every single time, because that's somebody's coming in, maybe in that place, looking for a final word of hope. If something finally says it's worth sticking around for, and I'm going to, God, use me, because you know they need to hear this word. Please, please, I don't know what it is, but please use me. That's terrifying. It's like, I got to get out the way. So I do it because that's the responsibility, because I love the Lord, and this is what he's called me to do. That's why I do it. Does it answer the question? I don't know if that made any sense whatsoever.
No, that made perfect sense.
Okay.
That's only the second time I've heard you share that story of singing for the first time in church. And for me, that's that, you talked about the congregation like was leaning forward towards you. But I think the way I heard you tell it before, and what I'm guessing, is that third participant was there. And I think I remember you saying that's when you knew that you knew that you knew that this was for real.
Yep.
And it's like,
almost knocked me off my feet. Literally knocked me off my feet.
And it sounds like a cliche, but God shows up. And then it's like, oh, now I got to deal with him. And he just didn't show up with you, with that worship leader, whoever he was, going, yeah. But then God also showed up for that guy who you haven't seen again in 17 years. So I'm just saying there would just be a small commission required for the book title for your life that I'm giving you. It's going to be Surprised by Worship. Surprised by Worship.
No, but remember we talked about this the
life
day.
Story of Victoria Hughes.
Never want to be surprised. Never want to be surprised. I always want to be shocked. I never want to be surprised. Maybe at the time I was surprised. I look back and go, why was I surprised? And I always want to be shock and awe. Like, whoa, that was like incredible. But I never want to be surprised like, saw that coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I say that a lot, and then make sure it's like the whole thing being difference between worthy and deserving. It's like, I don't deserve it, but I'm worthy. So.
Yeah, I love that.
Thanks for sharing.
That's the first time I've heard that story.
You asked a question about singing along. Can I answer that real quick? Because this is really, really important to me.
The question I put was, do I have to sing along?
Right.
Because I think that for the Northern Michigan people, that's often
that's why I don't want to miss this, because that I'll look out sometimes to the congregation, and there'll be somebody standing there, and they're just standing there, and then they'll go, especially on a Sunday morning, and it's like, I would say, okay, everyone stop, and do that, like needle off the record, be like, I'm so sorry. Are we boring you? Are we keeping you awake? Yeah. That's the me. That's the British me. Like, excuse, I'm so sorry. Are we keeping you awake, darling? You need a little nap? Please. Yeah. Too loud. So, okay. So the answer is no, you absolutely don't have to, need to sing along. The question is, what's going on? Right? I'll often pray before rehearsal and say, Lord, we're just praying for open hearts and open minds today. We know you're going to show up. Often we'll pray, Lord, stay close. And it's like, he's always close. So I catch myself on that all the time. But it's like, please just open hearts and open minds. I want to be open mouths. I don't have to sing. But just that they would be, that as they're standing there or sitting there and not singing, like what is happening in their hearts. And then I was reading in Acts 16. So Paul and Silas are in prison. About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the other prisoners were listening to them. They weren't singing along. They were listening, and then the earthquake, the doors open, and they stayed. So something had changed in them. Their chains were broken, but they stayed, right? The God comes in, I should follow my sword, you're all left. And it's like, don't worry, we're all here. Chill, we're all here. Turn the lights on, they're all there. They weren't singing. They weren't participating. May not even have their hands in the air. They were listening to Paul and Silas. And something changed in them. We know that because they stayed. So it's like, that's it. As long as you're there and you're listening and trusting us that God is working through me or whoever's leading worship. I think about some of the people on the stage with me, my amazing, beautiful, incredible sister Kelly. I'm a very physical worship leader. I'm always like, if you're in the front row, you're in the splash zone. Like, you better be ready. I might even come off that stage and hit you sideways because I'm like, yeah, in the front.
We're going to get a little runway off the stage
right,
so she can run out in the crowd. Yeah.
But Kelly stands quite still. Her hand might move, but her eyes are closed and she is worshiping. So I'm not going to be for everybody. People might be like, bro, she's like so full on. But they're watching Kelly. That's going to make me cry. She has such a pure heart for worship. But she's another who'll stand there and say, I'm not sure if am I worthy to do this? Should I be doing this? Yes, because her heart is so for him and seeking him all the time. But she's not waving her arms like I do. There's a stillness about her. And so I think maybe if people in the congregation, they're like, oh, so I can be still too? But you better know that she is connected. Again, mainline in the Holy Spirit. She is connected to him.
Yeah.
But she stands there all beautiful and graceful while I'm like a Tasmanian devil at the front of the stage, like a child. It's like, blah, blah, blah. So we worship right there on the stage. We're worshiping differently.
What I love is you're pointing to the fact that the physical expression may be different, but the heart is the same.
It's the heart that's important.
And I think for the person listening to this, that around worship, like that's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Is for some people like myself, like my physical expression is, I do sing. And I'm just loud in general. I'm not singing loud because I want to. It's just the only way I know how to.
Right.
You can ask Hope. I just put on potentially one of the greatest karaoke sessions of all time just this Tuesday driving home. But anyways, I digress. You'll get the video as an audition.
Oh, Lord. But, nice. Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited about it.
No, but I think for the person that stands there and maybe they don't sing, but their heart is in it and they're spending time. But for the person that's disengaged, why do I have to do this?
Yeah.
You don't have to. You get to. And you can leave. And that's what it boils down to. And I think that for people, I tell that to students all the time because we've started implementing worship at Foundry on Wednesdays. And it's not in an attempt to make this feel like a Sunday. It's because we've got some students that are freaking awesome worship leaders that are killing it.
Exciting.
That are now.
Excited.
But there's those kids that it's like, hey, you don't have to do this. But man, we get to.
Yeah.
So why not?
And, you're here.
Right.
Give it a shot.
Yeah. So, but no, I love it. And I don't know. I think I appreciate you sharing that story because now it gives me, because I've been around you for a minute, I never heard that story. And so it gives me clarity. I really do appreciate that. So thanks for sharing that. Anything?
No, it's beautiful expression.
Yeah.
I love what you explained with both the person, because as preachers, we see the person that's sleeping.
Right.
Yeah. If you fall asleep in church, we know usually,
Yeah.
But
and I'm talking to you.
Yeah. It's like, okay, bro, you got to get some sleep or you're, narcolepsy or whatever. You don't have to be here.
My favorite moment, I won't name any names for the sake of the innocent, but I have two students that are fired up about Jesus currently. But one of them is newer to the faith and one of them's been around it for a minute. And there was a Wednesday where the one that's been around it for a minute is literally snoring in our Foundry service. And there's like 30-something kids, like not a big group. We hear you, bro. And I'm like, hey, somebody wake him up. And afterwards, the one that's like brand new to this says to the one that's been coming for a long time, and I hope you both are listening. He looks at him in front of everybody. He goes, bro, he put his heart and soul into that.
Oh.
Why are you come if you're just going to sleep?
Yeah.
Stay at home.
Yeah.
And it was like, I didn't say it.
Right.
But I wanted to be like, thanks, bro.
Right.
But it's not about us. But I think that I loved that response to somebody that's new to it. Or he's brand new, has no inkling of what the etiquette of navigating Christian ghetto norms are. Right. And he's like, why would you even come then? And it's like, I love it. This is also the same kid that somebody told him, I don't believe in God. And he goes, you're dumb.
Well, and throwing out that disclaimer, though, because you and I know enough kids.
Yeah.
That kid may be getting no sleep. May have you would know his situation or her situation better than I would.
Yeah, I wouldn't share if he should have been sleeping. I want to preface with that. I wouldn't have shared that story if it was like, oh, he comes from a rough situation.
Yeah,
it's like,
he needs to sleep.
bro just didn't care.
Okay, cool. That's cool. That's cool. I always want to do, if I were a teacher and the room was quiet, because obviously the room isn't quiet when I do what I do, but when I'm singing, but I would, those TikTok when like the kids are asleep in class and they all just start clapping.
Yes.
The kid's like, oh, he like wakes up, but there's none of, I would do that. I would so do
I've one time when it was a smaller group thing and I had all the kids gather around and we acted like we were praying for that kid and he just woke up to people standing in a circle around.
Nice.
I'd be throwing hands. What?
Nice.
Oh, that's
Britton's got some anointing oil.
Yeah. All right, we're ready. Got the Crisco.
His stepbrother Adam's got a snake. It'd be epic.
It's just one lamp. The rest of the room's dark.
I love it.
Maybe we do that before a service. If or before a sermon, if I catch any of you sleeping, we're gonna get the snakes out. We're gonna get the snakes in the anointing.
One of my favorite.
It's brilliant.
We've lost this now. I gotta tell the story. We were at a camp in Oklahoma.
Of course, Oklahoma.
It's this huge Baptist Disneyland church camp, and they've got hundreds of staff that are golf carting around, making people are in their cabins, all this. And there's a night, and we have just one lamp on in this huge, like 300-person cabin, just one lamp and a rug. And it's they have a purpose behind it. But this staffer comes up, and he's a college kid that probably thinks he knows way more than he does. And he comes up the steps, and he's standing there, and the youth pastor looks at him, and he goes, "Hey, bro. We got the snack over there if you want to jump in, and then we're going to do an exorcism here in a minute if you want to join us." I've never seen a kid. He turned just like as white as a ghost. And he's like, you can't. And he's like, "Bro, I'm kidding." Oh, no, it was so funny. So that could be what we do now. We wake people up. Hey, man,
we're having an exorcism.
Yeah. Love it. So that's why we worship. Keep it. I love that. Is there any like lasting kind of last statement or anything you would say to the person that is going through it, maybe loves worship, just an encouragement you could give to the listener as they go?
Oh, man. Put me on the spot. This wasn't in the questions.
This is question number 6.
Right? I think what we were just talking about is not everybody needs to, or the expectation you have to stand up and sing and wave your arms around. I was talking about, Matt doesn't stand up and wave his arms because he's 6'5", and he always feels like if he's behind someone, they're going to be like, "Bruh," and if he's in front of someone, they can't see. Yep. So, but it's the heart. It's like, it's so easy to look at worship and go, well, it's just more music. I can go to a concert and see that or whatever. Anyway, everywhere goes music, right? The store is music. So it's like, I think, to see the difference and also, trust that the church you're attending, the worship leaders are for you and God is communicating with you through this other way, right? So you can experience Him and understand Him and know Him. And I don't know, just to be open. If worship isn't your thing, just to be open to it, because he's everywhere. He's everywhere, every way. And it's like, if you really think, well, I just don't like worship, there's nothing for me there. Really? How bold of you.
Yeah.
Good on you there. I'm going to step away from you.
You are.
Yeah. It's like, well, that's not for me. Yeah. It is for you. And He has something for you. And He's going to use these really, really crazy, you've been in the green room, a bunch of messed up, serious bozos.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's a whole other episode.
Yeah, for real. Our team, I always say this, I'm like, there's addiction on our team, there's divorce on our team, there's pride, there's ego, and that's just me. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, for real. It's like, it's just me. So,
well played.
Yeah, it's
well
like,
played.
It's our whole team is a bunch of incredibly, artists, musicians. You want to talk about barbarians and ragamuffins, good grief. And I have to wrangle them like herding cats. And let's just say it. There's Jesse.
Yeah.
So, one
Jesse
of the most
factor.
beloved, loved, like fiercely loved and fiercely loves, our team, human being. God, I seriously could talk about everybody on our team and I'll start crying because I know their stories, every one of them, and doing side shoulder to shoulder, going to battle with them. So trust me, if you're in the congregation going, well, these guys, believe me, we got you, we know, but God is still using us to speak to you. Don't think He's not. Yeah. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
My thing would be, although we've talked about Stendhal effect, we've talked about all the effects of worshiping, of what it does for us and through us. Ultimately, I would say to that person, maybe I'm thinking about that person that isn't singing or is asleep, or that person that walked out and is like, man, I just wasn't feeling worship today or whatever. I would say, remember, ultimately, worship's not about you.
100%.
It's just not about you, bro.
Yeah.
Or sis. So to the person's like, I don't like any of those songs. Well, if they were vertical, they were worthy to be sung. Exactly. And it was for somebody else, if it was just your part, worship ultimately is not about me. Yeah. It's about Him. So
I love it. And I think for me, it's just that aspect of, man, like worshiping a community. Like there's power in that. Because I know there's the people that say, I worship, it's in my car. And there's good. That's good. I'm glad you do that. But I think there's something about being a part of the body and doing it together. Yeah.
Corporate worship.
So I think that's a huge piece. That's kind of been my narrative recently. Probably because I'm fired about other stuff. But Anyways, John, your shirt's really soft.
Yeah,
I'm
my
wondering,
wife got
where'd you
this
get
for
that
me.
from?
I don't
man?
know. It's like a
nice.
grandpa sweater.
It is.
Did your wife
You're
I
buy
thought it was
for
going to
you,
be
though?
cold down here, but we're generating some heat.
If you had a
It's
polo
toasty.
on underneath that, it'd look like you worked for Alistair Begg.
I don't, but I got blue jeans. I don't have
I
khakis,
love it.
and I got a little chin thing. Apparently, you're not
Yep,
allowed
no-
to have
no
one
beards.
there. Yeah,
No beards?
I don't know why.
Who says that?
That's a rule in a church
It's-
that we like.
yeah.
Oh.
Kind of like, I guess, now. because
Except
they
the
can
beard
beards.
thing is
But you have
bogus.
to be clean shaven?
Yeah,
I
it's like
don't
the
know.
Yankees. New York
Oh.
Yankees, you can only have a mustache. You can't have a beard.
For real?
It's like the fire department.
Wow.
Fun fact. The Yankees suck.
Yeah, he's a baseball guy.
Benji?
You
All
got any
right.
thoughts on worship?
Benji.
Benji, you know what? For that comment, I hope today Victoria accidentally punches you in the face again. With no context for the
Again.
listener.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Again.
With no
Again.
context for the
Again.
listener. I love it. Tab family, we love you. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you'll come worship with us sometime.
Yes.
And if you listen to this and you don't go to a church, we'd love for you to join us. If you can't because of regional issues, find a local church. Go plug in. Go
Yes.
worship together with the body. We love you. And until next time, this is John, Victoria, Benji, and Britton signing off.